Hinamoto was human land until 1568, when suddenly a Kishin appeared and humans' rule came to an end. The warring state generals fell one after another, yet some continued to struggle against the complete dominance of the Kishin. A group of samurai known as the Bushi stood up against their rule. 151 years later, in the town of Tatsuyama, humans are now worshipping the Kishin and praying to him for safety. At the miner training school, Musashi is getting praised by his schoolmates for being the best miner in their class. During history class, Musashi and the rest are taught that the Bushi are monsters who dominated Hinamoto 150 years ago, making life for the agricultural class a living hell. However, Musashi knows the truth and that Bushi were the only ones who stood up against the Oni. Long ago, his childhood friend's father told them the truth about this because he was a Bushi. Musashi was inspired and vowed to become one. After class, Musashi visits his friend, Kajiro, and thinks now is the time to leave town and form their own Bushi. However, Kajiro refuses. Kajiro explains that he and his father are descendants of Bushi, and because of that, they are treated like trash by the townspeople. Kajiro believes his father lied to them to make Kajiro feel better about Bushi being heroes. Musashi tells him to not abandon his dream, but Kajiro believes that Musashi has abandoned it himself, as each day at school he yells that his dream is to become a miner, along with the rest of the class. Musashi leaves angry but determined to show how serious he is. Kajiro heads out to collect trash and recalls his younger days and how badly he was treated for being a Bushi, and he wishes Musashi would not experience it and live a normal miner's life. The next day, Musashi and the rest of his class graduate from the miners' school. They pass the Oni gate and head towards the mines. As they enter the mines, one of them gets eaten by an Oni. They are then told they will be slaves for the Oni, and will mine stones for them until they die. The new miners realize they were lied to all this time, and the Oni are monsters. Musashi states he knew that already, and he will be slaying some Oni. However, in that moment, he realizes that he doesn't have his pickaxe as he had to leave it outside before entering. One of the Oni hears him and gets angry, buffing himself. Having no choice, Musashi picks up an ordinary pickaxe. Kajiro notices that Musashi forgot his school bag at his place and gets surprised when he checks it. Meanwhile, Musashi fights the Oni, but it is no match for him. He realizes he was lying to himself and goes with the flow so that he doesn't get left out. Musashi yells that his dream is to become Bushi, and a moment before the Oni kills him, Kajiro comes attacking the Oni with his Kaitsuki, saving Musashi. He gives Musashi his pickaxe and his textbook, where he saw that Musashi was serious all this time and used his pickaxe as sword practice. Musashi sticks his pickaxe in the ground, making Kajiro recall that in his textbook, he used the ground as a sheath. As the Oni attack them, Musashi strikes and slashes the Oni in half. The rest of the Oni attack as well, and Kajiro and Musashi start fighting them. As they kill the Oni, Musashi tells Kajiro that he wants to form a band with him, not because he is afraid but because he doesn't want to be alone. And it won't be fun without Kajiro. A light then shines from the sky, and a Kishin appears. Riding the Kaitsuki, Musashi is excited that they will finally fulfill their dream of forming a Bushi band. However, Kajiro isn't excited. They see the Kishin but are surprised it's that small. Musashi easily manages to slice him in two. However, the Kishin regenerates back to normal. Worshipping villagers then come, telling the Kishin they bring offerings. As the Kishin eats the offerings, he transforms into a much larger and scary Kishin. Kajiro and Musashi get knocked out by Kishin's attack. Seeing Musashi on the ground, Kajiro prepares to fight, but Kishin grabs his sword. The worshippers tell him to release his sword as the Kishin eats swords. Kajiro refuses to let go, and the Kishin slams him around, trying to make him release the sword. While being dragged around, Kajiro recalls his childhood, where his father, Jisai, told him that Oni were monsters and the only ones that continued to fight them were Bushi. And he shouldn't be ashamed because he comes from a bloodline of proud, courageous people. Jisai tells him that the sword is the Bushi's pride, and he must not lose it. The Kishin had enough and pinned Kajiro with his finger, pulled the sword, and then ate it. Musashi then runs past Kajiro and jumps on the Kishin. He goes to his belly and starts slamming it with his sword. Surprisingly to all, that manages to injure the Kishin and makes him feel pain. The Kishin attempts to smash Musashi, but as he dodges, it only helps him break open the Kishi's belly. However, Musashi then slips and falls into Kishin's open belly. Moments later, Musashi comes out carrying Kajiro's sword and returns it to Kajiro, knowing how much it matters for him, and tells him not to lose it again. Recalling what his father told him, Kajiro smiles and agrees to form a band with Musashi. Musashi and Kajiro then witness a moving castle, and Bushi riding Kaitsuki coming out of it. The Bushi then breaks the Kishin barrier and heads towards the Kishin. The Bushi captain, Naotora Takeda, approaches Musashi and Kajiro and tells them to go somewhere safe. Musashi states they are Bushi themselves and had defeated the Kishin by opening its belly. Naotora then laughs and points out Kishin, who regenerates to normal. As the Kishin starts to get serious, Kojiro suggests they step aside, as the man told them. Musashi, however, feels they are stealing their first win and doesn't wish to let them do that. Musashi then runs forward and starts slaying Nekomata Oni along the way. Shunrei wonders if Musashi is indeed a Bushi, but Ayashi states that while he has some mixed in with Bushi techniques, he is fighting too wild to be a Bushi. Naotora returns to his men, but sees that Musashi is approaching the Kishin. One of his men tells him to ignore him, but Naotora states there is no point in slaying the Kishin if they don't save the people. As much as Musashi tries to kill the Kishin, it regenerates. Shunrei then pulls Musashi to take to his camp. Musashi is annoyed that they are stopping him and not letting him get his first prize and step into making his dream come true. Naotora explains they are Bushi and can't let a reckless kid run out onto the battlefield. He explains that he alone can't defeat the Kishin, as it takes many Bushi to even restrain the Kishin, let alone hurt it. However, Musashi refuses to not try, feeling he will regret it. He manages to free himself and runs again onto the battlefield. As Musashi jumped at the Kishin, Kojiro questioned the worshippers and told Musashi to smash the horn on the Kishin's navel in order to kill it. Musashi jumps on Kishin's belly and attacks the core horn, but his pickaxe ends up breaking. As the Kishin prepares to kill Musashi, Naotora passes Musashi, telling him he proved how serious he is, and then slashes the horn. The Kishin dies, and Naotora apologizes for having to take his first prize. The Kishin then explodes, and the Bushi raise their swords, absorbing the Kishin's power. Musashi and Kojiro find it frustrating that their first prize was taken like this. Naotora tells the villagers that his Bushi band will slay all the Kishin and make the world a safe place again. The Bushi then yelled freedom for Hinamoto and support for Naotora. Naotora approaches them and apologizes for taking their prize, but Kojiro states that they simply weren't strong enough. Seeing everyone happy, Musashi decides to keep quiet. However, the others keep teasing Musashi, telling him to at least thank Naotora for saving his life. But Musashi loses it and starts yelling that he is pissed that they stole their first prize. Naotora states that Musashi has guts and gives him a crystal, stating that it is his consolation prize for being unable to kill the Kishin. Naotora then leaves, but all that just pisses Musashi even more. Later, they inspect the crystal and see it has the Iki province seal, realizing it must belong to an official. Musashi is annoyed and wishes to smash it, but then sees that it's actually a kaleidoscope. Seeing Musashi look through it, Kojiro recalls seeing it and takes out the Bushi scrolls and points to a guy using it. Musashi then figures that this is a tool that lets you see Oni, and that Naotora gave them a tool to find their next Kishin. They keep inspecting the scroll in order to learn more things and find out that there are more than 100 Kishin, including the recently defeated Engoku Tenko. Musashi then runs to town and tells Naotora is fighting to unify the country. Naotora compliments him for figuring it out. Fighting the Oni isn't a game, and Musashi won't be able to do it alone. Musashi then points out that Take to Bushi also haven't done it yet. It was a 150-year-old dream so big that no one had accomplished it yet. And if no one can do it, then Musashi is going to do it, take down all the Kishin, and unify the country. The next day, Musashi and Kojiro leave the town and venture to the outside world. Musashi and Kojiro decide that they shouldn't be fighting on their journey. They are having a nice time the first couple of days, but after a week, when they had already run out of food, Musashi, being hungry and thirsty, starts blaming Kojiro for not preparing more food. Kojiro starts fishing and mocks Musashi for not catching any fish. Annoyed, Musashi decides that he will capture more fish, and goes to a different spot. Musashi, unable to catch anything, wonders why they are even fighting and returns to Kojiro to apologize, but sees him injured on the ground. Before Kojiro could even warn him, the girl Tsugumi grabs and pins Musashi to the ground, then tells them to give her all their valuables. Using raw power, Musashi manages to get up and engage Tsugumi in a fight. Musashi realizes that she has some skills, but they are light and weak, and he wonders how she defeated Kojiro. Tsugumi then starts acting differently, and states that Musashi is beautiful, and she likes strong men. Musashi drops his guard. Tsugumi changes her attitude again, stating that he fell for it, and attempts to stab him. However, Musashi easily throws her away. She is surprised that this didn't work on him, considering how well it went with Kojiro. Tsugumi decides to get serious and puts out her weapons. A horn then blows, and Tsugumi realizes it's past noon. Not wanting her lord to be furious, she takes their vehicle and leaves. At Kosameta Bushi, Tsugumi joins Hideo, apologizing for being late, but she managed to steal the key Tetsuki from the Bushi, just as he instructed her. Hideo knew she could do it, and she goes hugging him, stating that she loves him and wants Hideo to give her next mission. Musashi and Kojiro follow the Kitetsuki tracks to Kosameta Bushi Fortress. As they explore, Tsugumi finds them and welcomes them to Kosameta Bushi, saying he just borrowed the Kitetsuki and asking them to come with her. They find her suspicious, but still follow her. They end up having a better look, and Musashi is amazed that there is practically a town in the fortress, but Tsugumi corrects them and says it's a castle. Tsugumi explains that the Bushi castles can travel thanks to everyone who lives in them. They encounter some kids who want to play, and while Kojiro plays with them, Musashi comments that he didn't expect to see normal families among the Bushi. Tsugumi says that while everyone is like a big family, she doesn't have anyone who is blood-related here. Tsugumi recalls her younger days with her older sister Tsubame, who told her that the Bushi are not just fighting for themselves, but to protect the weak too. But one day Tsubame was killed, and she is alone now. Musashi reveals that he is also alone, and Tsugumi is like him. Musashi and Kojiro then join Hideo for dinner, who welcomes them and states it's nice to make new Bushi allies. Hideo then offers them if they are willing to fight alongside Kosameta Bushi, explaining that there are a great number of stray Oni in the area. They can split the Kaitetsu after that. However, they don't know what Kitetsu is. Suddenly Hideo shows his true colors, calls them useless, and throws them in prison. Then Hideo forces Tsugumi to mock herself for being stupid and useless. He reminds her that because of their constant hunts, they are low on manpower and Kitetsu. He might have to mobilize the entire castle to fight the next wave. This worries Tsugumi because most of the adults are women, children, and senior citizens, and Hideo shouldn't expect them to fight Oni to the death. Hideo gets angry and asks her if she has an argument, but getting scared, Tsugumi denies it, stating he is right, and asks for her next mission. Hideo calms down and states that she is useless without him, but he will always be by her side. After crying out, Tsugumi visits Musashi and Kojiro and asks them if they really don't have Kitetsu. As they again state they don't know what that is, she explains it's the iron dust that appears after a Kishin dies and that it has power, which the Bushi uses to fight the Oni. Tsugumi reveals that a herd of Kodama Oni is headed to the castle. Musashi realizes that Tsugumi is bottled up and not saying anything. Tsugumi realizes she is trying to say that the townspeople will die, and she is against the total mobilization. But she can't say it out loud and starts to cry and runs away. Using his fishing skills, Kojiro uses a chain and a hook to take the cell keys, and together with Musashi, they manage to escape the Kosameta Castle prison. They locate their Kitetsuki, and still need to find their weapons. Musashi and Kojiro then notice from a distance that a large group of Kodama Oni is heading towards the castle. With the Oni nearing, Hideo calls Tsugumi to mobilize everyone to fight. Tsugumi is shocked, however. She recalls Musashi's words and decides to stand up against Hideo and state she is against it. Hideo gets angry. He states he no longer has use of her and expels her from the band and the castle, stating she should live alone in the wilderness. Tsugumi, not wishing to be abandoned, agrees and will obey him. Later, Tsugumi recalls that her sister went through the same thing, and now she understands how she felt. However, Tsugumi again makes up her mind to protect the townspeople and defy Hideo. In that moment, Musashi and Kojiro burst through the wall and destroyed the portrait, while they looked for their sword. Tsugumi states she is useless and weak without Hideo. However, Musashi doesn't agree, stating she defeated Kojiro and knows much more about Oni than them. After getting them their weapons, she leads them to the square, where Hideo has gathered the townspeople. She asks Musashi and Kojiro to help them escape, and Musashi asks Kojiro to think of a plan. Hideo tells the townspeople they will be joining the fight. As they have never fought before, the townspeople don't agree, but they see they can't escape. Tsugumi then throws some smoke bombs, stating that Bushi's duty is to protect the people, and sending non-combatants into battle would shame any Bushi. However, Musashi and Kojiro already had enough time to knock out all the guards while hiding in the smoke. Tsugumi tells everyone they can escape, but no one is moving. Tsugumi realizes that the people are still afraid of him and won't move. In order to give the courage to escape, Tsugumi decides to defeat Hideo herself. Tsugumi engages Hideo in a fight, but is quickly defeated by him. As he beats her up, he reminds her that he taught her fighting and that everyone is useless without him, so they must listen, otherwise they can't survive on their own. Tsugumi then spits blood to his face, saying she will no longer listen to him and has decided to fight. She stands up, and both activate their weapons. Tsugumi manages to dodge Hideo's attack, then captures him with her weapon and lifts and slams him to the ground, defeating him. The townspeople then escape the castle. As Tsugumi remained to keep Hideo, she knew she couldn't escape in time from the incoming Kodama Oni. However, Musashi and Kojiro appear with their Kitetsuki and manage to get Tsugumi and Hideo and escape as the Kodama Oni destroys the castle. As the town is undergoing rebuilding, the villagers ask Musashi and Kajiro to take Tsugumi. However, Tsugumi refuses to leave. The villagers explain that they want to help her escape from Hideo, who after being betrayed, fell apart and became fixated on Tsugumi. They believe that if Hideo and Tsugumi are reunited, Hideo will try to manipulate her again. The villagers then decide that they will protect Tsugumi, which only makes her realize she needs to leave. She asks Musashi if she can join them, and Musashi agrees. That evening, Musashi asks Tsugumi what changed her mind. Tsugumi explains that she fears that if she ends up obeying Hideo again, she may end up having to hurt the people she loves and wants to protect. Tsugumi states that Hideo isn't her real father, but Musashi understands her as he also thought of Kajiro's father as his own father. Musashi, Kajiro, and Tsugumi leave the next day. The village kids run after them, crying and telling Tsugumi to come back and visit them someday. Musashi uses the kaleidoscope and decides to head for a blue Kishin. Soon after that, they stop, and Tsugumi becomes quite clingy to Musashi and rubs into him. Musashi feels that Kajiro may get the wrong idea and wonder what to do. Meanwhile, Kajiro sees that Musashi and Tsugumi are getting along and is ready to support them, but at the same time he doesn't agree with it. Musashi and Kajiro wonder what Tsugumi is planning, and Tsugumi reveals that she wants to be friends with them. She never really made friends with anyone outside her bushy band and doesn't know how that works. Musashi and Kajiro state that they are already friends, and the situation gets sorted out. In the morning, while everyone is asleep, an Oni appears and takes Kajiro's sword. Musashi sees it and starts chasing it. The Oni leads him to a field with swords, where Musashi sees a person named Shiro, who tells him that he can borrow one of the swords to defeat the Oni. Musashi then grabs one of the swords, feeling energy going through him, along with horns growing on his body. As the horns disappear, he attacks the Oni and kills it. The Oni-san then gets collected into the sword, and Musashi recalls that's like Takeda-bushi. However, the sword then breaks. Shiro wonders how he managed to draw out that much power, and if he is the chosen one. Shiro's servant, Nanao, then appears, telling him it is time. As they leave, Musashi asks them who they are, but Shiro states they are dogs for hire with names not worth sharing. Kajiro and Tsugumi then show up, and Musashi realizes that Shiro and the swords are gone. Musashi tells them what happened, but they wonder if he wasn't dreaming. Musashi then states he can't wait to wield the Kitetsu blade again, although he doesn't know what it means. Tsugumi then shows her weapon and says they are made of Kitetsu, and that you can't break an Oni horn without Kitetsu blade. Musashi and Kajiro then guess that they are hard to obtain, but Tsugumi tells them to just buy one. Tsugumi explains that once a Kishin shows up and Bushi comes slaying him, not long after that merchants appear to do business with the Bushi. They go to a merchant market, excited to buy a Kitetsu blade. At the merchant market, Musashi gets excited seeing all the Bushi. Tsugumi explains that they are using Kitetsu sen as currency, and Kitetsu blades are the main attraction and are usually saved for the last day. While they eat, Tsugumi tells them they need to decide who will be the captain in order to know whose orders they should follow. Musashi states it must be Kajiro, since he himself doesn't even have a family name. Kajiro wonders if this is really okay, and he expected Musashi to want it, but Musashi says he is fine as long as they have their dream. The Kitetsu Blades auction starts, and 25 swords from the Ryuzoji band are shown as being hosted by Mitsuru, the head of the Ryuzoji band. Everyone then stands in front of the sword they want. Musashi chooses Enmazudachi, a sword that Tsugumi finds looking plain, but Mitsuru comments to herself that he has a good eye. Kajiro is indecisive and in the end chooses a sword no one wanted, Vorpal Cherry Blossoms, as it reminds him of himself, making Mitsuru comment that he chose well too. As they wonder what to do, Mitsuru tells them to pick up the swords. Musashi picks his, and then an aura surrounds him. Mitsuru then explains to Kajiro that Musashi and the rest are going through the sword's trial, and the auction is a ritual where the sword chooses its master. Kajiro then picks up his sword, his pulse quickens, and he feels like something is coursing through his body. Kajiro notices others passing too, but with different glowing colors around them. Mitsuru states that it's the color of their souls, and the minerals in the katana shine to match the color of the soul. There are 5 colors, and depending on the color, you can use different powers. Kajiro's color is blue, which is quite an ordinary color, but they want to have at least one red in their band. Musashi still goes through the trial. He finds himself in a dark space, and then sees his village in the final moments of Jisai, who tells him something, but he can't hear him. Moments later, a woman appears in front of him, but he can't hear her. She then hugs him, and Musashi finds her warm. The woman then turns larger and more muscular and grabs Musashi's arms, stating she doesn't need him. Black spikes then come out of Musashi's body, as he gets surrounded by a dark aura and fails the trial. Mitsuru has never seen a trial like this, but has heard legends. Musashi then tries with other swords, but ends up failing with them as well. Mitsuru tells him he can't use Keitetsu blades, and those with burned-out colors are rejected by all Keitetsu blades. Suddenly, Kishin then appears and sends his lesser Oni from the sky. Musashi then gets scared, realizing that it's because he now knows he can't do anything against them. An Oni attacks him, but Kojiro protects him, using his new Keitetsu blade. Kojiro then proceeds to kill an Oni, saving a mother and child, who thank him. The Bull Oni are defeated, and Mitsuru and the rest celebrate and congratulate Kojiro on his first fight. Looking at them, Musashi realizes that he wanted to hunt Oni so that he could be with Kojiro. The Bushi then head towards the Kishin, where Tsugumi suggests they go. They realize Musashi can't come and go without him. Musashi wonders what to do in order to fight and recalls having actually used a Keitetsu sword earlier. Shiro then appears and states he saw his trial from earlier, and his trouble with the black lighting aura. Shiro then reveals he has a black aura too, saying they have things in common and that Musashi belongs with them. Shiro starts crying and says he is happy to finally meet the one who isn't Musashi due to the fact that he has those black stones. Shiro guesses that Musashi wishes to become stronger and join his friends. Shiro tells him there is a way to use the Keitetsu blades, and he just needs to accept the black stones. Musashi wonders how strong he can get. To demonstrate, Shiro takes out his sword and cuts a large square on the ground, then cuts it into pieces, creating a large square pit in the ground. Shiro then throws him a Keitetsu blade and tells him to surrender to it so he can become the ultimate Keitetsu blade. Realizing that Shiro wishes for Musashi to become a sword, he declines and states he would rather fight with his friends. Shiro then suggests turning his friends into swords too, so that Musashi isn't lonely, and then pushes Musashi into the pit alongside a Keitetsu blade. Meanwhile, Tsugumi wonders if it was a good idea to leave Musashi alone, but Kojiro explains there was nothing they could do for him. Tsugumi wonders who Musashi really is. As it is really rare to have those black stones, Musashi may be someone special who inherited special powers and wonders if he is from a special family. Kojiro then explains that Musashi's family were farmers. Hearing that, Tsugumi gets disappointed. Tsugumi then can't figure out why the Keitetsu blades scorn him as he is ordinary person. Nanao checks on Shiro and wonders if he finally found what he wanted. Shiro claims Musashi is the real deal, and not a fake because the obsidian goddess resides inside him. Nanao then realizes that Shiro intends to use Musashi as material for a sword. Musashi has been falling for a while. He then notices the falling sword and grabs it, using it to stop himself from falling, but black stones start to appear on him. Musashi starts using the stones as climbing aids to climb out, but more stones grow out of him and he ends up falling in the burning magma. Musashi awakens in a strange world, where the goddess tells him he should stay with her here forever. Musashi refuses, wanting to go help his friends even if he can't fight. Musashi then remembers the death of his parents from an epidemic. As he became alone, no one wanted him, but he ended up being accepted into a family, but only if he doesn't do anything, doesn't talk to them in public, and avoids the Bushi. Musashi starts living as a ghost with no one talking to him. He feels like he is dead and wishes someone would notice him. The goddess apologized for reminding him of his past, but that was the only way to break his will to fight and avoid being captured. As Musashi turns to stone, she hugs him, saying they should stay there forever. Meanwhile, Kojiro, Tsugumi, and the rest of the Bushi reach the Kishin. The Bushi find the Kishin without a head and believe someone has already slain him. Shiro then appears who cut the Kishin's head, and one band of Bushi surrounds him, wanting to know where the head is so that they can kill the Kishin and claim the Keitetsu. Shiro reveals his true intentions, to kill all of them so that they can be materials for his Keitetsu blade. Realizing he is a sword hunter, the remaining Bushi prepare to fight him. The Bushi combine their attacks and attack Shiro, but he easily defeats all of them. Shiro realizes who is Kojiro and states that Musashi has already become a Keitetsu blade, and Kojiro will be joining him soon. Meanwhile, Musashi had become a black stone. Obsidian Goddess then notices that Nanao uses her Keitetsu blade to fish out Musashi, and is disappointed they can reach them even in the magma and will be captured. Musashi then opens his eyes to find his top half returned to normal, and to Nanao's surprise that he is still alive, as she believed he turned to stone already. Musashi recalls what happened and rushes towards the mountain top, thanking Nanao for the help. Flashback shows that Musashi threw the rock at Kojiro's dad because his poster family ordered him to do it. That night, Musashi visits Jisai, and apologizes for what he had done and said. Jisai tells him he doesn't need to worry and that he understands the situation he is in. Jisai states that Kojiro was in a similar situation like Musashi, but being Kojiro's friend, he had saved him. As Jisai thanks him, He tells Musashi to live and offers to stay in live with them. Musashi agrees and ends up being raised by Jisai. The Bushi are attempting to run, which angers Shiro, who slays the running Bushi, stating that the souls of cowards are hideous. Realizing that Shiro is chasing him, Kojiro decides to head back to the top of the mountain to allow the rest to escape. Shiro easily knocks down Kojiro, and then grabs him and lifts him, stating that he likes him as the soul of a courageous Bushi, and as a beautiful color. Shiro is about to kill Kojiro, but feeling Musashi's presence, he stops and turns around to see Musashi. Shiro then moves away from Kojiro, letting Musashi and Tsugumi get to him, where Musashi states he is back. Seeing Musashi holding a key Tetsu blade, Kojiro gets excited, but Musashi states he can't use the cool lights, and the haze and the black stones no longer come out as he holds it. Shiro comments that he is neither accepted or rejected by the blade. Nanao joins Shiro, stating that she pulled Musashi too early. Shiro forgives her as the situation has gotten interesting and tells her to look at Musashi, who is half fused with the black stone since the goddess hasn't cast her judgment yet. Nanao then restarts the capturing the goddess operation, stating that she just needs to kill Musashi. Nanao explains they will be fighting only her and unleashes her key Tetsu blade, the 7-belled armadillo sword. She turns her weapon into 7 flying swords and starts attacking the trio. Since she isn't an Oni, Musashi believes he can hurt her with his sword and attempts to attack her. He deflects 3 of her blades and uses his sword drawing technique to avoid the 4th, launching himself at her, but she uses the remaining blades to repel him back. As they can't reach her due to her blades, Musashi suggests they break her blades and Kojiro states he came up with a plan. Nanao is surprised when Musashi and Tsugumi run backwards. She wonders if that means Kojiro will fight her alone and if he is sacrificing himself for Musashi to escape. As she can't allow Musashi to escape, she attacks him with one of her blades, but Tsugumi then captures it using her key Tetsu blade whip. Musashi then cuts a part of the Nanao's staff that forms that blade, leaving her with only 6 more. The group had figured that Nanao would either attack Musashi or Kojiro, so it was easy for Tsugumi to capture a blade knowing where it was going. Shiro turns and heads towards Musashi. Shiro tells her to step aside, as weak allies are just a hindrance. Shiro is getting bored and activates his blade ring. Tsugumi explains the blade ring as a halo of light that appears when you channel power into a key Tetsu blade, and as Shiro hasn't used that yet, it means he will be showing his true power now. Shiro swings his blade, but apparently nothing happens. Moments later, a large light cube surrounds the entire area. Shiro then flips the cube, causing a large amount of Bushi to start falling towards the sky, while Musashi and the rest manage to hold themselves using their swords. Standing above the cube, he starts cutting smaller cubes into the ground, separating the weak Bushi and making them fall. Then he slams the ground, causing everyone to start falling. As Musashi falls, the time stops and the obsidian goddess appears, stating she finally understands what kind of person Musashi is. As Musashi's death would be a problem for the goddess, she decides to give him his power and will demonstrate how she fights using his body. As the time resumes, large black stones appear, and the energy from the blades starts being drawn in. A black stone exists that can call upon the power of all key Tetsu blades. The goddess in Musashi's body then pulls and takes Shiro's blade. The goddess comments that Shiro has a nice blade and dispels his cube, returning the mountain to its place and saving those that were falling down. The goddess tells Kojiro to look at how her power works. Nanao starts attacking her, but all her attacks are warped and repelled. The goddess explains that those with black stones have control over blade energy and can draw it towards them or even repel it. But because of the unique nature of the power, the vortex of magnetism can leave people confused and unable to use key Tetsu blade, which is the truth behind the legend they know. The goddess states that taking this form in the outside world drains her power. She must return soon, but Musashi will lose all these powers. The goddess then starts drawing the key Tetsu blade's energy from the Bushi. She states that Bushi may indeed be insects that need to band together to survive. However, the brilliance of a single blade, when joined by others, can shine like a constellation. As she draws the energy and prepares the attack, Shiro is surprised by the upcoming power. The obsidian goddess tells Musashi that she will be going back to sleep inside of him, and no matter what foes he faces, he must not die. Because he is her vessel, and because Jisai died before they were able to finish what they started. The goddess gathers energy from all key Tetsu blades and launches an attack towards Shiro and Nanao, obliterating multiple hills behind them. Musashi regains control over his body, but feels the sensation of the fight. The other Bushi then notice that there is a large square hole where Kishin's body used to be. Elsewhere, Shiro uses his technique to open a hole in the sky, and they come out with Nanao who has captured the Kishin. The Bushi hold a funeral ceremony to honor the deceased from the battle with Shiro. As people stay around the Kitetsu blades, mourning the death, Tsugumi explains that the Kitetsu blades are special and the feelings of their wielders linger inside of them, and some people threaten them like the symbol of a Bushi's life. That night, Mitsuru invites the group to spend the night in her band castle. Before leaving them for the night, Musashi has a request. The next day, Mitsuru announces that Musashi will be redoing the sword trial. Musashi chooses the same sword as in his first trial. Spectators gather, wondering if Musashi will be able to do it this time. Musashi then takes the sword, which instantly lights up red, passing the trial. Everyone gets excited and congratulates Musashi. Kojiro comments that people were not excited that much for when he passed, and Tsugumi reminds him that blue is an average color, while Musashi is red and rare and powerful. Musashi then goes to Kojiro and tells him he wishes to talk with him. The two go somewhere private, and Musashi asks if during his trial, Kojiro saw something from his past. But Kojiro states that it happened so fast that he isn't sure. Musashi reveals that he saw Jisai, and thinks that the goddess knew him. Musashi wonders if Jisai mentioned the goddess, but Kojiro has no such memory, stating he only left him the scrolls, a katana, and Ki Tetsuki bike. As they only saw Ki Tetsuki from Bushi out of town, Kojiro wonders if Jisai had a connection with out-of-town Bushi. Elsewhere, Nanao describes Jisai and states they were looking for him, the great criminal who escaped with the goddess inside of him. But if Musashi has the goddess, then the description doesn't fit. Shiro states it's been 15 years, and it seems the goddess had picked a new vessel for some reason. However, Musashi seems to have no clue about the goddess. The Bushi camp is ending, and the Bushi are starting to leave. Kojiro always believed that his father lived only in their village, but now he regrets not having talked with him more. All the Bushi had left, but Kojiro went somewhere, and Musashi and Tsugumi are waiting for him. Tsugumi comments that Kojiro always looked unmotivated compared to Musashi, but Kojiro then returns, stating that he is motivated and was gone taking provisions and a map. The group then looks at the map and gets excited about how big Hinamoto is, but wonders where to go next. Kojiro explains where they are and suggests going east, and the group agrees. Musashi, Kojiro, and Tsugumi pass through a forest and end up pushing the Ki Tetsuki. As it gets hotter, Tsugumi starts to complain, and they end up arguing with Kojiro. Musashi suggests he could drive the Ki Tetsuki. Kojiro and Tsugumi agree, planning on letting him go to scare him. However, they end up being caught by an octopus jar's green Oni. No longer feeling helpless against Oni, Musashi takes out his sword and prepares to fight. Locating the Oni horn, Musashi launches an attack, destroys the Oni, and absorbs its Ki Tetsu. After saving Kojiro and Tsugumi, Musashi notices that another person has been caught by the Oni too and ends up finding a young and beautiful girl. She seems a bit lost, but as Musashi explains, he saved her, and she thanks him. An old man then comes, calling her princess and being worried about her as she was separated from the group. The girl explains she was attacked by an Oni, but Musashi saved her. The man thanks them and introduces her as the daughter of Lord Nobumitsu, head of the Saruwatari Bushi under the Yusugi alliance, Mitsuru Saruwatari. They are currently headed towards the port of Harima to attend the battle that will decide the fate of the nation. The group joins Mitsuru and rides on her tank like Ki Tetsuki. Musashi feels that Mitsuru's attitude changed, and now she feels more cold. As he took a liking to her, he decided to break the ice. He states that they are lost, but he's glad that Mitsuru has a forest map. However, Mitsuru doesn't react at all. Musashi gets annoyed, telling his friends to stop changing the subject as he is trying to talk to Mitsuru. Mitsuru is surprised that Musashi remembered her name. As the road gets quite bumpy, Mitsuru and Musashi end up falling off the Ki Tetsuki and right off a cliff. As they fall, Mitsuru takes out her blade and creates a crystal umbrella, causing them to fly. Musashi praises her blade, stating it's awesome, and Mitsuru is reminded of her father, who had told her the same thing. Mitsuru asks him to head with him south, but Musashi explains they are heading east. Mitsuru then states they won't be able to go far as the black spot on the map is a Kishin. Pointing ahead, Musashi sees an enormous black wall. Mitsuru explains it's the first Oni that appeared 150 years ago. It was too powerful for the humans. It split Hinamoto in two, between those who believed the Oni were enemies and those who saw them as gods. The second created mining towns and fed the Oni with ores, which caused the Oni to grow ever bigger and cover over half of Hinamoto. People named the Oni the Black Kishin. The old man explains that the Kishin continues to grow, and if it remains undefeated, it will eventually destroy the entire Hinamoto. However, he believes that the leader of their alliance, Tatsuomi Yusugi, will be able to slay it, as he is one of the 5 grand generals. The old man and Mitsuru then leave on their own. Musashi and Kojiro wonder if Jisai knew about it and decide to check the scrolls. Seeing them, Tsugumi guesses that his father must have been in a bushy band. Tsugumi states that each scroll has a seal for identification, and checking this one, she sees that it was part of the Usugi band. At Harima Port, various bushy bands gather. Nanao is contacted by a group of shady people known as the Obsidian Eight, and Shiro is part of this group. She reported that they had found the Obsidian Goddess. The rest explain that the Bushi shouldn't get a hold of the goddess, and that their duty is to ensure the survival of the Kishin, so they can continue living alongside them. They decide to form a plan and send someone after Musashi, who has not seen the group. Wanting to know more about his father, Kojiro wishes to head towards the Harima port, where the Usugi may know something about his father, and the group agrees. Thank you for watching to the end, and please don't forget to subscribe. I only covered 1 to 12 episodes. If you find this anime interesting, the name of the anime